Well, the White House wants the media to, quote, ramp up their scrutiny of the Biden impeachment trial. The irony. Now, we could be here all day if we talked about the hypocrisy of how these impeachment trials have been presented to us as news consumers. You probably remember, unless you were born yesterday, in which case, why are you watching the show? That the media was breathless over the Trump impeachments, both of them. They loved it. They went wall-to-wall coverage on it. The votes, all of it. It was hysterical, right? Now, right or wrong, they are doing the opposite for the Biden impeachment. And the White House sent a memo saying, hey, we think you really should ramp up the scrutiny on the legitimacy of this. Now, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with the White House releasing something about spin. What's wrong with it is that the media already is complying. Roger that, gotcha, as if they work for the Pentagon, which they do. So a few things here stand out to me, like red to a bowl. One, this twist of irony. The Trump impeachment was about a phone call to Ukrainian President Zelensky asking about Biden corruption in Ukraine. Now we actually have that. We have an investigation of Biden corruption in Ukraine and China and Russia and several other places. We should want answers to that collectively. You could love President Biden and want his name cleared. We should, if you do, right? You should want the full story. You should not want to willfully look away. The same way about Trump. If you liked him, you should have wanted the full story about these things to come out, right? We should want equal justice under the law. Now, another thing that stands out to me is that the White House feels so comfortable telling the media how to cover this, and the media just like jumping right in, like left foot green, like a twister board. And CNN actually told us this. This is also, I can't figure out their angle here. Why did they tell us that the White House is telling us this? Now, I don't want to break my arm patting CNN on the back. They've tried to build their ratings on picking on half of the populace, telling them that they were ignorant for supporting Trump for so long. They also pretend there's nothing wrong with what the president has done. See what they said about this. They said this is their article telling us about the White House memo, and this stood out to me like a bullseye. The Republican House-led investigations into Biden have yet to provide any direct evidence that the president financially benefited from Hunter Biden's career. That's a lie. Republicans have published copious data showing possible corruption that Democrats just put blinders on and refused to see. We've covered them. The Hunter Biden WhatsApp messages where he literally said, my father's in on this. They have bank receipts from the Biden families. LLCs owned by multiple members of the Biden. We've talked about this, dinners, bank records, and they still have many more subpoenas to go. We linked to those in the newsletter today, so you can go to yourself, if you want to find it, to the Congressional Committee. What would you like to see?
I'd like to see the same title for what they said about Trump when he was getting impeached. I wonder if it was as favorable.
Right. If they had a sentence at the bottom that says Democrats have failed to provide any evidence so far of any wrongdoing.
I didn't find anything like that.
I didn't see
it might take me a while to find something like that.
If you find it, send it to us.
But that sentence that we just showed you is evidence of CNN falling in line. The White House says, be critical of this, ramp up your scrutiny of it. And CNN says,
we're good little dogs.
Okay,
we're good little
I will do
dogs.
that.
We're
right?
We're mouthpieces of the administration. We are mouthpieces of the state.
We will publish a foregone conclusion that we want to see.
Yeah.
That is unethical, in my point of view. I have been to journalism school. I know what's unethical journalism when I see it. Now, I think that there's plenty to see here in the Biden corruption investigations if you're willing to see it. It's like fairies. You can only see it if you truly believe. Right? In this case, you can only see Biden's corruption if you are a member of the opposing party. That's not how this should work. We should all look at this and leave our prejudice behind. Our inability to do so is hurting us collectively. Here is one of the congressional committee chairs this week explaining more the thread they are pulling on Fox News Watch.
What are you suspecting is illegal here that he did? Are you suspecting that he he voted for certain policies and pushed certain policies in exchange for money?
He told Ukraine, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the money.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they accused President Trump of doing, which he didn't do, and they impeached him over that. He did it, and he did it.
Right.
Remember, December 4th, 2015, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden are meeting with the head of Burisma, Mr. Zolochevsky, and they called D.C. Now, Devin Archer says, I stepped away. I don't know who they talked to in D.C. Come on. They called D.C., and then 5 days later, the vice president of the United States, the current president of the United States, goes to Ukraine and starts the process into getting the prosecutor fired.
And he bragged about it on camera.
Bragged about it on camera, but leverages the money of the people I get the privilege of representing in the 4th District of Ohio to make that happen, which directly benefited his son. That's the heart of this issue, those 4 central facts.
So I talked to Shokin. He's the prosecutor that was fired.
I watched it.
And he said he was investigating Burisma. He did think that Hunter and Archer were up to no good. He did say that Joe Biden made Petroshenko fire him. And then tomorrow, I'm going to talk to Poroshenko and see if I can verify that story.
Yep. No, I watched the interview. I think it's important. And understand at the time, our government's policy, that was a turnaround, a quick turnaround of what the State Department and the Obama administration's policy was towards Ukraine.
All right. So now we have a war in Ukraine. That didn't age well, right? That business dealing with Hunter Biden did not age well. We can't just say, oh, it's just one of those things. Happened to like Ukraine, happened to be a fan of their literature and history, and that's why we were doing business there. No, it's not coincidental that we have a war. Now, again, we've shown these connections many times, so you can rewind the tape. Now, here's the memo from the White House to the mainstream media. Here is the heading. It's from the special counsel to the White House. And here is where they tell us exactly what they want. They want the media to ramp up scrutiny of the White House for opening this impeachment trial.
No,
right?
They want the media to ramp up its scrutiny of House Republicans.
Okay, right. They want this to be partisan. It already is. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to point out. I've been seeing coverage on Twitter and on other places, and they're saying the ultra right. Like every time they refer to one of these Republicans, it's ultra right. Like they're trying to paint them as just insane on the right.
Right. And they have, there's a list of Republicans who have said critical things about the impeachment that they list. It's almost like a call sheet, like talk to these 10 Republicans who have, I don't have a screen of that here, but there is, again, a link to this in the newsletter. Now, can we put that back up? I just want to show you a few more things. Yes. They said, in this modern media environment where everyday liars and hucksters peddle disinformation and lies from everywhere from Facebook to Fox, okay, you fed the media you fed those social media lies. We've seen that. The White House did that. Process stories that fail to unpack the illegitimacy of the claims on which House Republicans are basing all of their actions only serve to generate confusion, put false premises in people's feed, and obscure the truth. It's dripping with irony. I cannot. And then they said, here's an attachment of 7 lies that House Republicans have told and how you can refute them. That attachment was not provided by the New York Post or CNN, who published this story. I would love to see them. Now, this memo in and of itself is not the biggest sin. The Trump White House made their own requests for how the Trump impeachments were covered, right? And they blocked out media that they thought were unfair to them. They stopped inviting them to the White House. We saw that. But the media was breathless in their coverage of Trump impeachments. They just loved it. It poked holes in CNN's credibility that they have yet to recover from. The same can be said of MSNBC. The same, I think, can be said for most mainstream media outlets. They can't hide their bias with the Joe Biden impeachment, and we absolutely should not expect them to. But when we start to see this, because it is going to get hot and heavy, we know we can look back on this memo and say, you're doing what the White House told you to do. That's not real journalism. Report the story. Yeah. Just that.
If you see it, I mean, this is exactly right. They want to battle against mis and disinformation. And as Senator Rand Paul said, the United States government is the biggest purveyor of dis and misinformation, right? Yes. And you see it right here from the White House, telling people to lie or put spin on stories or discredit what the House Republicans are doing. So mainstream media organizations are like, hey, we picked up this memo. We're carrying the water for the White House. We've got to put these little nuggets in here in these articles. So report it. Report it as fake news. Report it as mis and disinformation.
No, don't use those terms. Just report it.
Well, I don't think you have those information.
Misinformation and disinformation, it tells your viewers that you don't think that they can tell the difference between what's legitimately reported. You notice we will never use those terms when we see something. We'll just say,
on Twitter, you can say, I guess you can contextualize it with the community notes, right? So maybe it'll say, like on Twitter, readers have provided context to say, I don't know what they'll be able to do in community threads notes or whatever.
Right. We don't use those terms. We don't think anybody should use those terms. They usually are used to hand power a narrative to somebody else. So anyway, let us know what you think of that. And again, keep it in mind as this coverage ramps up, because we're going to see the media being good dogs and doing it just this way.
Yeah. Oh, propaganda. There's propaganda in its finest. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.